With a final wave to the cameras, President Trump concluding his state visit to China. A two-day whirlwind visit packed with pageantry that the president is already declaring a success.
This has been an incredible visit. I think a lot of good has come of it. We've made some fantastic trade deals, great for both countries.
Before departing, the president sitting down for a ceremonial tea with Chinese President Xi Jinping in a former imperial garden near the Forbidden City, now the modern seat of China's communist government. That meeting and a private lunch concluding 2 days of delicate diplomacy, for which the president set high expectations.
And there are those that say this is maybe the biggest summit ever.
The summit's results so far unclear. The White House invited more than a dozen American CEOs to Beijing, all introduced to Xi. But so far, there have been no formal announcements of any new trade deals or purchases of American products. The president suggesting that airplane maker Boeing struck a deal to sell more aircraft to Chinese companies.
450 engines, 200 planes, and a promise of up to 750 if they do a good job.
The White House had also hoped to encourage China, the top buyer of Iranian oil, to take a larger role in helping bring the conflict there to a close. President Trump speaking for his counterpart, whom he said had offered China's help.
We did discuss Iran. We feel very similar to Iran. We want that to end. We don't want them to have a nuclear weapon. We want the straits open.
Neither leader offering details about what that help may look like. It comes as two sources with knowledge of the matter tell NBC News that Chinese state-controlled companies have discussed plans to secretly sell arms to Iran. China says it exercises strict control over its exports. The president underlining what he said was Xi's commitment not to sell arms to Iran.
He said he's not going to give military equipment. That's a big statement. He said that today. That's a big statement. He said that strongly.
From the Chinese perspective, a major goal coming into this summit was simply to maintain a stable and predictable relationship with President Trump, and for the moment at least that seems to have been achieved. President Trump has invited Xi to Washington for a reciprocal state visit that would be in late September. No formal acceptance from the Chinese leader yet. Craig?
All right. Well, Chief White House correspondent Garrett Haake for us there from China. Garrett, thank you. Let's bring in Kristin Welker now, moderator of Meet the Press. Kristin, good morning to you. Kristin, there was, as you know, this expectation that the president, before returning home, would make some sort of announcement about deals. He had a number of CEOs with him on Air Force One. No major announcement. So what does that tell you about what was and perhaps what was not accomplished on this high-stakes trip to China?
Craig, it's a great question. Good morning. President Trump was hoping he'd be able to tout major wins on this trip with China. And look, the optics were powerful, but it is notable, as you say, the president returning without any major announcements on those thornier issues from trade to Iran as well. President Trump did say, while talking to reporters on Air Force One just moments ago, that China has agreed to purchase 200 Boeing planes. You heard Garrett talk about that, and also invest with some of the businesses that were represented on the visit. But so far, few details have been given about the specifics of how that would actually work. But perhaps the most extraordinary moment of the trip came when, according to Chinese officials, President Xi used some of his sharpest language to date on the issue of Taiwan, warning President Trump that if handled poorly by the U.S., there could be, quote, clashes and even conflicts. Now, notably, the United States did not publicly respond, which does raise some questions about whether President Xi is actually walking away from this summit feeling emboldened. And as one GOP strategist told me overnight, it's not clear that this trip produced any changes to China's behavior. So that's something that we'll continue to watch.
Kristin, you mentioned Iran, one of the biggest issues looming over this summit. Any progress on that front?
Well, Laura, according to President Trump and Secretary of State Marco Rubio, China expressed agreement that it did not want Iran to have a nuclear weapon and wants the Strait of Hormuz to be reopened. No surprise there. Much of China's oil actually comes through the strait. But again, it was not clear if China made any actual commitments to help reopen the strait or bring the war to an end. So the big question for President Trump once he returns, with negotiations with Iran stalled, Will he resume military action against Iran? It's certainly an option that he left on the table. And in speaking to his top allies, he's still very much considering the possibility, they tell me. Now, the pressure's mounting on all sides for him to bring this war to an end, especially with those gas prices soaring. You all were talking about that just moments ago. And a majority of Americans saying they disapprove of the war and that President Trump's policies have actually increased their cost of living. So that's something to watch with the midterms well underway now, Craig and Laura.
All right. Kristin Welker for us. Kristin, thank you. Of course, Kristin will have much more Sunday on Meet the Press, including exclusive interviews with Senators Lindsey Graham and Maryland Senator Chris Van Hollen, also former FBI Director James Comey. If it's Sunday, it's Meet the Press.
Hey, thanks for watching. And don't forget, you can catch the Today Show every morning on NBC or take Today when you're on the go. Just follow the Today podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen.